Okay, Algebra 2, Set 9, percent word problems. Okay, so we're talking about percent, and if we're trying to find 30% of a number, you can say that you take that number and you divide it into 100 pieces, and then take 30 of the pieces. So taking 30, dividing it by 100 is one piece, and then dividing it by 100, multiplying it by 30 would give you 30%. So for example, if I take 242 and I divide it into 100 pieces, each piece is worth 2.42. And then if I wanted 30% of 242, I just take 30 of those 2.42 parts. So that gives me 72.6. So 30% of 242 is 72.6. If I'm trying to find 193% of 242, again, 242 divided by 100 is 2.42, so I would just take it and multiply it by 193 times 2.42 to get 467.06. Another way to do it is 30 over 100 times 242. 30% is 30 over 100. Of means times, and then 242, and that would give you the same answer, 72.6. And if we were doing 193%, it would be 193 over 100 times 242, and you get the same answer, 467.06. You're essentially doing the same thing, you're just doing it in a different order. So let's do some examples of this kind of a problem. The wood nymphs and the maids gamboled and frolicked before the banquet began. If 70% of those present were wood nymphs, and 120 maids were present, how many wood nymphs came to the banquet? So the book likes you to draw a picture of what's happening. So we've got two things. We've got wood nymphs and we have maids. When we put them all together, we get 100%. From the problem, we know that 70% were wood nymphs. So in my two drawings, I have one drawing that represents the whole thing, and then the second drawing represents it split up. So I have 70% that were wood nymphs, and we know that there are 120 maids. Well, if we just look at the math there, 70% are wood nymphs, so the other percentage has to be 30. Because 70 plus 30 is equal to 100%. So we know that 30% is the same as 120. And then the question is, how many wood nymphs came to the banquet? So that's our X. That is our unknown. We can let total be T because we don't know the total either. But we can figure out the total by using the 30% and the 120. We can say 120 is 30% of the total. So if we write that in algebraic form, 120 equals 30 over 100 times t. Now we just multiply each side by 100 over 30, and we can cancel, and we find that 400 is equal to t. So there are 400 total. But the question's not asking for the total. The question is asking for how many wood nymphs. So you can do it a couple of ways, but the easiest way to do it is just knowing that 400 is the total and there are 120 maids. We can just subtract 120 from 400 to figure out how many wood nymphs there are. So we find out that there are 280 wood nymphs. Okay, let's do another example. The harvest was cornucopian as it was 120% greater than last year. If the yield was 140,800 bushels, how many bushels were harvested last year? So there's a word in here that should be a signal. It should be a flag it should be a red flag that stands out, and that is the word greater than, which we'll talk about in just a second. So if we draw the picture, we know that greater than is indicating that it's more than 100%. So if we take last year's 100%, it's 120% greater than that. So it has to be 220% because 100% plus 120% is going to give us 220. You have to be careful here and not just put 120 where the 220 is. It's 120% greater than last year. So greater than means that you're going to add those two percentages. So it becomes 220%. That is something that always catches people. So we know our total, our new total is 220. And it says that the yield this year is 140,800. So we can just write a statement that 220% of x is equal to 140,800. So if we write that in decimal form, 2.2x equals 140,800. Then divide both sides by 2.2, and we get x is equal to 64,000 bushels.